So for juniors in college, no, they have a big exam on Monday, and it's chemistry. They make straight A's. They're not too concerned about it, and so they decide to go away for the weekend and party pretty hard. And they're having such a good time, they don't want to come back on Monday. And so they called each of them individually, and they told the professor, we're not able to make it back. We've had a flat tire, and we're not able to come. And so the professor said, no problem, I'll give you the test on Tuesday at 9 a.m. So all of them report, and the professor says, I want all of you to go in a different room. And he said, here's your test. And so they go in each of their individual rooms, and the first question's worth 5 points. And it's a chemistry question, and of course they knew the answer. Then they turn the page. Next question, worth 95 points. Which tire was it? And yes, I do remember that I've told that story before, but that story is very important to me because storytelling activates the visionary and the healer. And I'm reminded with great humility that what I know is a very small part to how I respond, how I sit with something, how I act, how I am in the being of life. And so 95% is that we don't give our power away and that we allow ourselves to believe in something greater than often what we can see, and more often than not what we've never seen. And that is what we call and refer to as sacred evolution. Yes? And many a master teacher has told us that there's one or two things that get in our way when we give our power away, and one of them is the inability to tell the truth to ourselves. To tell the truth to ourselves, to say, this is what I need to be doing now. Nah, I'll wait. This is what action I need to take. Nah, probably another time. To not be truthful with ourselves. And the other aspect is relying upon trial and error, which often means doing the same thing and expecting new results from the same thing, yes? And so it's in that energetic field that we learn to listen. And one of the things when we look at, like I was saying last week, God created the heavens and the earth. God did not create hell, so therefore people can't go to hell. It was never created, right? But that being said, we name things. God created the heaven and earth and named each thing, and we name things in our lives ever since, yes? We name it, and what we name it and what we claim it is what it becomes in our 95% of our lives and our intuition. When I work with my own shadow, and we all have it, and when I work with my own shadow, there's 3 components that I draw from as a spiritual student. One is if I have an inkling that I feel confused. It's rare, I will tell you that. It is rare because I've trained myself that that's not a rabbit hole I want to go in. But if I do have an inkling that I feel confused, I realize that that is my shadow. And the honoring of getting the power into that inner power is claiming clarity. So as a personality, yeah, there's times I have no idea. I don't know. As a personality, people will ask me the most interesting questions, and I go, I don't know. I'm not all of God. God is all of me. I don't know. But I know there's something that knows, yes? When I work with the other aspect of discernment is living in your wisdom as an inner powerful being, right? It's not judgment. Judgment is shadow. People go, well, I have this truth about my kids. I don't want to be judgmental. You're not being judgmental. You're stating facts. You're discerning. You're owning a truth. And the third one is being detached instead of attached. And that's my new saying. I am solely committed to being detached. Attached to being detached. It's like the thing. And it creates a level of healthiness, because being attached to an outcome, being attached to a person, being attached to what you think someone ought to do or isn't doing, it is a strained experience, and it gives our power away. Do you agree with that? By power, I'm not talking false power. I'm not talking about power over people. I'm not talking about power over organizations. I'm simply talking the inner power of the divine. I'm talking about the container of the energy that we carry in our beings. I love some of the statements on Facebook that said, you may have had a power out, but your power never went out. Right? Because we just continued to do with what was. We continued to model what is and what we teach and what we believe and what we know. One of the ways that sometimes we deflate our power, our energy, our vibration is that we know we need to say no to things and we keep saying yes. I've told many a person when I was 14 and it was cool to smoke, I started smoking. I went into full-blown tonsillitis in just a week. Do you think my body wanted me to do that? Huh? Do you think my body wanted me to do that? You think that was a sign? But I was stubborn then, right? And I just continued to do it. I coughed more than anybody that had coughed 30 and 40 years. It was never meant for me to do. The first time I took a drink, I got like the flu for weeks. 14 years later, it never got better. So we are called forth at times to say no to certain things in our lives. And when we do not, it disempowers our energy. Age doesn't have anything to do with energy. That's a false idea. It's about the essence of who we are as spiritual beings and the flow of that which we have. And often people, they want to eat the same things they've been eating all their lives. But as you clear what is eating you, your diet also has to change in what you feed your body. And so it's that awareness of listening, because what worked last year may not work this year. People will often say, oh, I can't believe it. I do all these things. I listen to Joe Dispenza's meditation. I walk, I relax, I do far infrared sauna, I do the red light, I drink green juice, I do a cleanse, and I don't understand how I could have a cold. And I will say, when you hold that kind of space with the consciousness of so many people that something might be wrong with you and you may be sick, you join that vibration. But what if it's because you're doing all that work on yourself that your body is doing a natural detox? Amen? What if you're detoxing? It's not about being sick. It's about getting to the next level of your vibration. And I guarantee you it will happen from time to time. But if you understand that dynamic, you approach it in a much different way. Right, Dr. Jim?
Very right.
Thank you. Dr. Jim says very right. Check. Okay. And so it's true. So you want to be mindful of how you associate categories and labels and things, because it can take our power away. And it becomes then that we get into the commandment, or we cross a line that says, I shall not, should on myself. Because we began to go, how did I do this to me and why? It's happening because it's a good thing. It's a good thing. If more young people understood when they start appearing in their dreams, I don't want to be here anymore, I wish I could die. If they could understand that doesn't mean a physical death, it means an energetic one. It means that something's coming forth that will be made in the new and the image of Christ consciousness. It's pretty expressive and pretty energetic. I think of Esther in the Bible. The whole book is named after her. Pretty impressive, huh? And Esther was a beautiful young woman, and she wanted life of luxury. She wanted life of riches, and she went on to marry the king and become the queen. But she hid who she was. She was a Jewish woman, and she was hiding that. She didn't want anybody to know until they set out to destroy her people, the Jewish people. And she was willing to rise up and say, this is who I am, and this will not happen. Often, the very Esther moment that you have in your life, the very thing that you have that is occurring is there for you because that is the greater work that you are to do. And I know with some of you, I'm talking to the choir. When I look out here in the group, we have people here that run several organizations. We have people here that are constantly giving of themselves and doing things. But it is crucial that we take what is happening in the perception of to me and turning it into for everyone else. What do we turn it into? For everyone else. And that's the word compassion. It means to come with the experience that you have and pass it on to the next person that's going to need it. Are you with me? My teacher 30 years ago, she really took her position of being a teacher seriously. I get that. And she taught me repeatedly that in life, when you have something come your way, you acknowledge it, and you accept it, and then you allow it. So you acknowledge something in your life. I'm sure some of you have some things you're acknowledging right now. You accept it, and then you allow it. And one day, I decided to tell her that her student didn't feel that way. It created quite a stir. As I said, this isn't the truth that works for me. What do you mean? Well, I find people are too quick to accept something without sitting with it, with time, with prayer, with meditation, with energy. So I've changed it. It was interesting how she responded to me. It hurt a bit. But it was about, for me, I acknowledge something in my life, and then I allow it. I'm going to sit with it a while. I don't want to react. I don't want to build stories. I'm not going to call 8 people and build drama trauma. I'm just simply going to allow it. And once I walk through that phase, then I'm going to go to a deeper level and call it acceptance. Does that make sense? And therefore, when I really accept it, I'm telling the truth within myself. Sometimes we're so quick with our cliches. It's all good. It's happening for your best. Don't worry, be happy. And I don't feel sometimes that makes us in unity look well-rounded. There's heart. There's feeling. There's human beings. There's essence, there's space, and we want to contain a greater truth for people and those around us and look at the space of what we allow. I will add kind of a funny to that, just lighten it up a bit, in that I was working with this concept. I acknowledge, I allow, I accept, and often, I don't know about you, but when I have something stirring, then I get a real life situation I get to work through. Yes? And so anyway, I'm where we used to live, cars were, go quite fast. And I was like the traffic director at times. Slow down, slow down, slow down. So I'm walking across the street with my little bitty 7-pound Yorkies and slow down, slow down. This young man, he opened the window and he called me several names, which I won't say out loud, but then he ended it by calling me just a stupid grandma. Oh. Now you can only imagine how well that went with me. And I went, is it my hat? I mean, do I really look like a grandma? I mean, I allowed the space of what I was feeling. What? He called me a grandma. Why would he do that? How cruel to call me a grandmother. And I allowed it and I went, oh, I am a grandmother. Oh, it's okay. I really am, have been for a while. But it just took a moment, And so we can allow a space. And I was able to shift. It sounds so silly, but in reality it isn't, because it's like, what labels do we give our power to? And why? And how? And what are we thinking? And how do we respond? And what is our shadow talk? What is our shadow talk? When people will tell me a long story about something going on, and then they'll say, but it's not that big of a deal. And then I say, it must be, because you're talking about it. When we use shadow language to cover up what we need to embrace that brings our greater light, we want to be aware of that. It doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal. Oh, everything happens for a reason. Ooh. Yeah, it does. And you might know the reason, and you might live your whole life and never know why. But if you shut down what the energy is that's wanting to reveal itself, you may miss a great truth. Oh, money doesn't matter to me at all. Why do people have to talk about money? I love that one. I go, well, give it to me. Lots of things we can do with it. Lots of people we can help. If it doesn't matter to you, please don't shut the rest of us down. It's part of energy in this world, yes? And so it's this kind of space and how we travel and how we live our lives. I was seeing on an article that they may be bringing back yet another Sister Act 3. Yeah, I'm going to talk about movies people know, that I know it, right? I love Sister Act 2. If you're going to go somewhere, you're going to be somebody, you got to stop and pay attention. Remember Whoopi Goldberg saying that? If you're going to go somewhere, you're going to be somebody, you got to stop and pay attention. And they kind of developed a little jingle about it, right? And you saw how she transformed, how the energy of that transformed those beautiful children from incapable to possible. A friend of mine, she runs a program in Harlem by Higginson, and she takes homeless kids and she brings them in and she watches their self-esteem and she asks them to say their name. And they'll say, my name's Tom. My name's Mary. And she goes, say your name. What's your name? My name is Tom. Say your name loud. Tom. What's your name? Tom. What's your name? Mary. What's your name? What's your name? What's your name? And she teaches people that how you hold your name is equated to how you hold the life as an inner being immersed in the spirit of who you are. And how you start that energy of that makes all the difference in how you claim who you are in this life and who you are to be in your becoming. I'll close by a beautiful thought of Ben Franklin, that it was interesting because I was been thinking about Ben Franklin, and somebody sent me a text this morning telling me that I'm named after Ben Franklin's son. I went, how cool is that? Anyway, side note, I digressed. Okay, Ben Franklin. So Ben Franklin, along the way on his journey, decided that he wanted to see streetlights. And he didn't gather a group and talk about the issues with street lighting. He didn't start publishing ideas of why street lights are needed. He simply took a bracket, lit the candle, and hung it on his sidewalk. When people started realizing the glow that he carried, then each and every one of them down the street then went and repeated exactly what he did. And then the street was entirely lit up. That is what we can do in healing. That's what we can do in the course of this day in this way, is that we can keep our candle lit in the midst of whatever is going on around us. And that is this life that we live. It is this amazing journey. And thank you for sharing yours with me. And thank you for being here. Yes, thank you. Thank you.